Ah, look who clicked on this video at exactly the right moment. Not by accident, not by some random algorithm mistake. You clicked because some part of you already knows the truth, and that part has been waiting for someone to finally say it out loud. So let's say it. You are not normal, and not in the way people throw that word around as an insult. You are not normal the way a fracture in a windshield is not normal, the way static on a clean signal is not normal, the way a single wrong note in a perfect symphony makes the whole room go quiet. Something about you does not compute.
I just finished this book, and honestly, it is one of the best things I've ever read. Dark psychology, mental discipline, how to never let anyone control you again, it's all in here. Every single chapter hits different. This book will rewire the way you think. This is not just a book, this is a weapon for your mind. Get your copy right now. You need this.
People have tried to run you through their logic, their categories, their little mental spreadsheets, and every single time, the numbers come back wrong. Not wrong like broken, wrong like impossible, wrong like a result that shouldn't exist but does anyway, sitting right there in front of them, refusing to be explained away. That is not a flaw. That is a signature. And in the next few minutes, you are going to understand exactly what that signature means, where it came from, and why the people closest to you have spent years trying to pretend they don't see it. Because here's the part nobody tells you. The world is built like a machine, and machines run on patterns, predictable inputs, predictable outputs. Wake up, obey, consume, repeat. But every machine, no matter how well built, eventually produces an error that the system did not account for. A line of code that runs differently than it was supposed to. An anomaly that breaks the loop just by existing inside it. You already suspect what that error is. Stay with me, because we are about to prove it. Think back, not to one moment, but to a pattern, a thread running through your whole life, quiet at first, then louder. People have looked at you and paused half a second too long, like their brain needed extra time to process what it was looking at. Teachers, bosses, friends, even people who claim to love you, they all did it. That little flicker behind the eyes, that almost imperceptible recalibration, the look of someone trying to fit a shape into a hole that was never built for it. You noticed. You always noticed. You just didn't have the language for it yet. That flicker is not admiration, and it is not always hostility either. It is confusion wearing a calm face. It is the sound a system makes right before it throws an error it doesn't know how to label. They built their entire understanding of people on a finite list of categories. Ambitious or lazy. Confident or insecure, loud or quiet, and you kept showing up as something that didn't fit cleanly into any of their boxes. So they tried to force you into the nearest one anyway, because an almost correct label feels safer to them than admitting they have no idea what they are looking at. You felt it happen over and over. The friend who called you intense when what they meant was unreadable. The boss who called you difficult when what they meant was uncontrollable. The partner who called you cold when what they meant was unshakable in a way that frightened them. Every label was a guess, and every guess missed, because they were trying to describe a glitch using language built for ordinary code. Ordinary code does not survive what you survived and come out asking better questions instead of smaller ones. And here's where it gets uncomfortable for them. The moment something refuses to be categorized, the system doesn't shrug and move on. It panics quietly. Then it escalates. It assigns more attention to the anomaly, not less. It studies it, gossips about it, builds entire theories about it at dinner tables and in group chats you were never invited to. They didn't ignore you because you were unremarkable. They obsessed over you because you were unsolvable, and unsolvable things demand attention whether anyone wants to admit it or not. So when you ask yourself why certain people seem to think about you far more than you ever think about them, that is your answer. You are not haunting them on purpose. You are simply the variable their model never accounted for, the result that keeps appearing no matter how many times they run the simulation differently in their heads. A clean system does not lose sleep over ordinary people. Only an anomaly keeps a system awake. There was a moment, you remember it even if you've never said it out loud, when something in you was supposed to break and didn't. Maybe it was a betrayal that should have collapsed you. Maybe it was a rejection that should have made you smaller, quieter, more agreeable. The expected output, according to every rule the world runs on, was surrender, cry publicly, beg for understanding, apologize for existing in a way that made someone uncomfortable. That is the script. That is what the program expects every single time. You did not run the script. Something in you rerouted the signal entirely. Instead of collapsing, you went still. Instead of begging, you went quiet. Instead of shrinking, you simply kept moving, calm, in a way that should have been impossible given what had just happened to you. And that calm terrified people more than rage ever could have. Rage is predictable. Rage fits the model. A person who should be devastated but instead looks you dead in the eye without flinching, that is not predictable. And unpredictability is the one thing the system was never designed to survive. That was the first glitch, the first crack in the pattern they thought they understood. And once a system detects an error like that, it does not forget it. It flags it. It marks the file. From that point forward, every single thing you did afterward got measured against that one impossible moment, the moment you should have broken and simply did not. People started watching you differently after that, not because you announced anything, but because something in their nervous system recognized that you were operating outside the rules everyone else silently agreed to follow. You may not have realized it at the time, but that was the exact second you stopped being predictable currency in other people's stories. You became a variable they could no longer plug into their assumptions and trust the math to work out. And the strange thing about glitches in any system, real or imagined, is that they rarely happen just once. The first time proves it's possible. Every time after that, it becomes who you are. Here is something almost nobody says clearly enough. The world is not actually afraid of weakness. Weakness is easy to manage, easy to pity, easy to use. What the world is genuinely afraid of is anything it cannot model in advance, because unpredictability threatens the entire illusion of control that keeps most people functioning. If you can predict someone's reaction, you can manipulate it. If you can predict someone's limits, you can push right up against them and stay safe. The moment a person stops being predictable, every strategy built around controlling them collapses instantly. And that collapse is what people feel around you. That is why the punishments rarely come as direct confrontation. They come as distance, as exclusion, as subtle character assassination disguised as concern. Soft words like, "they've changed," or "something feels off about them now," are not observations. They are warning signals being passed between people who sense that their old methods of control no longer work on you. Nobody wants to admit out loud that they have lost their ability to predict you, so instead they reframe the loss of control as a flaw in your character. It is easier to call you unstable than to admit they no longer understand the equation. But notice the pattern hiding underneath all of it. They do not isolate ordinary people this way. Ordinary inputs do not require quiet meetings, careful distancing, or years of low-grade gossip dressed up as worry. Only an anomaly requires that much collective management. The amount of energy spent trying to explain you, contain you, or quietly phase you out is, in itself, undeniable proof that you broke their model long before you ever broke anything else. And the deepest irony sits right here. The more they try to punish the unpredictability out of you, distance, silence, exclusion, the more unpredictable you actually become. Because every attempt to cage a glitch only proves to the glitch that the cage was never built strong enough to begin with. You start to understand that their discomfort is not a referendum on your worth. It is a confession of their own limits. Every system runs on assumed logic. If someone is hurt enough times, they become bitter. If someone is rejected enough times, they stop trying. If someone is betrayed by people they trusted, they eventually become guarded and small. This is the standard equation, taught silently through 1,000 sitcoms and cautionary tales, repeated so often that most people never question it. Pain goes in, smallness comes out. That is the formula the whole world, quietly expects every person to obey. Except you. Somewhere along the way, the formula stopped applying to your output, and nobody around you knew what to do with that. You took in the same volume of pain everyone else takes in, sometimes more. And instead of producing the expected smallness, you produced precision. Instead of producing bitterness, you produced clarity, sharp enough to cut through excuses you used to accept without question. The inputs were identical to what breaks other people. The outputs were not. This is the part that genuinely defies logic, the part that earns you the label of glitch rather than survivor. A survivor fits neatly into a redemption arc the world already understands and applauds politely. But what you are doing is different, stranger, harder to package into a tidy story, because you did not simply recover. You converted the exact material that was supposed to destroy you into raw material for becoming undeniable. That is not resilience, as the world defines it. That is a system processing damage and somehow returning an output more advanced than the one it started with. People sense this, even when they can't articulate it. They feel that something about your calm does not match the chaos you've clearly survived, and that mismatch unsettles them on a level deeper than conscious thought. They are used to reading pain off a person's face like a barcode. Scan it, file it, move on. With you, the scanner returns an error every time, because the barcode keeps changing into something the system has never been programmed to read. You've felt them, haven't you? The people who pay just a little too much attention to your life from a careful distance, never quite close enough to be called a friend, never quite far enough to disappear completely. They like your posts at strange hours. They bring you up in conversations you weren't part of. They remember details about your life that you never directly told them, details they must have pieced together from quiet observation over time. This is not flattery. This is surveillance dressed up in casual curiosity, and on some level you have always known the difference. Understand why this happens. People do not study things they consider beneath them. Nobody builds a mental file on someone they truly believe is irrelevant. The act of watching, closely, repeatedly, almost involuntarily, is itself an admission of significance they would never say to your face. They are not monitoring you because you matter less than they pretend. They are monitoring you because some part of them suspects you matter more than they're willing to admit, and that suspicion eats at them quietly while they perform indifference in public. This is the strange economy of being unsolvable. The less you explain yourself, the more material they invent to fill the silence. The less you react, the more theories they construct about what's really going on behind your calm. They do not need accurate information about you. They only need enough fragments to keep their own narrative comfortable. And you have become a recurring character in stories you never agreed to be part of, simply because your existence refuses to resolve into something simple enough for them to stop thinking about. And here is the detail that should change how you see all of it. Every minute spent analyzing you is a minute they are not spending becoming whoever they were supposed to become. Every theory they construct about your motives is energy diverted away from building their own life. You did not ask to occupy that much of their attention, but the fact that you do, effortlessly, without lifting a finger to demand it, tells you everything about which one of you is actually the variable worth watching. There comes a point, and you likely already know if you've passed it, where you stop performing the version of yourself other people find comfortable. Not out of rebellion, not out of spite, but out of sheer exhaustion with running a program that was never actually yours to begin with. You stop softening your opinions to keep the room calm. You stop explaining your choices to people who were never going to understand them regardless of how clearly you laid them out. You stop apologizing for taking up the exact amount of space your existence requires. That moment is not a breakdown. It is closer to a system reset, the kind where every unnecessary process running quietly in the background finally gets shut down so the core function can run at full capacity. People around you will describe it as a change, sometimes a concerning one, because they preferred the version of you that ran their preferred software. But what actually happened is simpler and far less dramatic than they want it to be. You did not become someone new. You stopped suppressing who you had been underneath the compliance the entire time. This is the exact point where the label flips. Before this moment, people called you sensitive or dramatic or too much. Language designed to shrink an inconvenient signal back down to manageable size. After this moment, the language changes to intense, unpredictable, different words that admit, however reluctantly, that the shrinking no longer works. They are not describing a worse version of you. They are describing the first version of you they could never successfully control, and the discomfort in their voice when they say it is the sound of an old strategy finally failing for good. You may have grieved this transition at some point, wondering if something was wrong with you for no longer fitting where you used to fit so easily. Nothing was wrong. You simply outgrew the container, and containers do not get a vote in whether the thing inside them is allowed to expand. The script broke because you stopped reciting lines that were never written for someone like you in the first place. If you want undeniable evidence that something about you defies their logic, look at how often they contradict themselves while trying to describe you. The same people who call you cold will, in the same breath, complain that you feel things too intensely. The same people who call you guarded will admit, almost involuntarily, that you somehow see right through them within minutes of meeting. The same people who claim you don't care will be the ones checking your life the most obsessively from a careful distance. Contradiction like that is not confusion about details. It is confusion about category, and category confusion only happens when something refuses to behave the way its label suggests it should. A predictable person generates a predictable description. Everyone who knows them roughly agrees, because the pattern holds steady across every observer. You do not generate that kind of consensus, and that lack of consensus is itself the data point that matters most. Different people, in different rooms, with different relationships to you, somehow arrive at completely different conclusions about who you are, and every single one of them swears their version is the accurate one. That is not because you are inconsistent. That is because you contain more range than any single observer's model has room for, and each observer is only ever measuring the slice of you that fits through their particular instrument. This is the part that should land the hardest. A glitch in any system is by definition something the original programming did not plan for. It was not written into the code on purpose, and yet it persists, repeats, and produces effects the original architecture cannot account for. You have spent years assuming that not fitting cleanly into anyone's expectations was a personal failure, something to apologize for or correct. It was never a failure. It was simply proof that you were built from material the standard program never included as a possibility. Stop waiting for an explanation that finally satisfies everyone. It will never come, because the people looking for it are using the wrong instruments. You are not a problem waiting to be solved. You are a result that exists outside the equation. And the longer they keep trying to force the math to work, the longer they will keep failing, while you keep moving forward exactly as you were always going to. Being the exception is not a comfortable position, and nobody should pretend otherwise. Exceptions do not get easy categorization, easy belonging, or easy acceptance from a world that runs more smoothly when everyone stays inside their assigned lane. There is a real cost to being unpredictable in a system built entirely on predictability, and that cost shows up as loneliness sometimes, as exhaustion sometimes, as the strange grief of being misread by people who never even tried to read you correctly in the first place. But here is the trade nobody mentions when they warn you about that cost. Predictable people get absorbed into the system completely. They become interchangeable parts, easily replaced, easily forgotten the moment something newer comes along to occupy the same role. The exception does not get absorbed, because the exception cannot be replicated. There is no template for you sitting in a drawer somewhere, ready to be copied and issued to the next person who needs to play your part. What you are took every single thing that happened to you, every betrayal, Every silence, every moment you should have broken and refused to, and there is no shortcut that produces that same output in someone else. This is why the loneliness, when it visits, is not actually a sign that something is wrong with you. It is the natural atmosphere at the edge of any system, the quiet, thin air that exists wherever something stops following the rules everyone else still obeys. Astronauts do not complain that space is silent. They understand the silence is simply what exists outside the atmosphere that used to contain them. Your silence is the same kind of evidence. It tells you exactly how far outside the old structure you have already traveled. So if you have ever wondered whether being misunderstood this consistently, this completely, this permanently, means something has gone wrong with you, consider the alternative explanation instead. Maybe nothing went wrong. Maybe you were never meant to resolve into something simple enough to be fully understood by people still operating inside a system you already outgrew. So here is where this leaves you. Every label that never quite fit, every relationship that ended in confusion instead of clean closure, every person who studied you a little too closely without ever admitting why, all of it points toward the exact same conclusion. You were never the broken piece in someone else's well-functioning machine. You were the line of code that proved the machine was never as airtight as everyone pretended it was. You do not need their approval to confirm what you already suspect about yourself. You do not need a label that satisfies their need for categories, because the moment something fits neatly into a category, it stops being an exception and starts being just another predictable input. You were never meant to be predictable. You were meant to be the result nobody can fully explain, moving through a world built for people who never had to survive what you survived. Calm in a way that should be impossible, clear in a way that unsettles rooms full of people still running on outdated logic. Let them keep watching. Let them keep guessing. Let them build their quiet theories at dinner tables you were never invited to. Because every theory they construct is just another confirmation that the equation still does not balance, no matter how many times they run it. You were never the error in this story. You were always the proof that the story had a flaw in its foundation long before you ever arrived to reveal it. So the next time someone looks at you with that flicker of confusion behind their eyes, that half-second pause where their understanding fails to load correctly, remember exactly what you are looking at. Not rejection, not failure, just a system encountering something it was never built to process, standing in front of the one result it can study forever and never fully solve. That has always been the truth. You were simply waiting for the right moment to finally see it clearly.
Unready, I don't know who to call.